Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ready, Set, Smart webinar series. During this series, we aim to share strategies for creating instructional activities, improving teacher workflow, and increasing student engagement using SMART. Please introduce yourselves in the chat and make sure to set your chat to everyone instead of host and panelists so we all can see the great questions that come in. Meet the Smart Notebook Pillar team. Our team will be offering additional webinar sessions specifically on Smart Notebook. We hope you will enjoy our future sessions or have enjoyed our past sessions. Now let's meet the team. Dan, will you start us off?
Hi, I'm Dan Shinneman, and I'm down in Palm Beach, Florida, and I am a trainer and technical specialist. So a lot of my experience is in elementary, and I look forward to supporting you guys in the chat.
And I'm Jennifer Underwood, professional development specialist in Florida as well. And I get to work with Melody today while we're doing this webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. So my name's Melody. I'm a training specialist in Philadelphia. Super excited to be here today with you guys.
And I'll wrap up. I'm Terry. I'm also a training specialist out of Philadelphia. Welcome and enjoy.
So today's webinar, Building in Notebook with Lumio in Mind, features Melody and myself. Terry and Dan will be supporting you in the chat. We encourage participation. If you have any questions, please ask those in the chat box and make sure you go to the pull down and send it to everyone. And during the presentation, we'll either answer in the chat, integrate them into the flow of the webinar, or hold those questions to be answered at the end during our Q&A period. We'll be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat. Also, for participating today, a certificate will be provided after you complete a brief survey. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Melody so that we can dive into today's webinar, Creating a Notebook with Lumio in Mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and excited to be sharing with you guys today. So the first thing that we're going to ask everyone to do, if you can, is go to hellosmart.com. So if you're able to, maybe pull the Zoom window to the side and then open up a Chrome or internet window, go ahead and put in hellosmart.com. You're going to select Join as a Guest. And then you'll input my code here. It's 592636. So we're going to ask that you join us as students first so that you can kind of see the student experience and how the different activities that we've made in Notebook are going to look once you get them into Lumio. And then we'll also take a look at how to build those. Awesome. So I can see 6 students have already popped in here. Thanks, Angie, Laura, Scott, Stephen. Oh, so many names popping in.
And don't worry if you can't join us in the class, and we know some of you might be in different situations, driving or joining us from somewhere else. We're just happy that you're with us, and you can view what Melody's presenting as well from your screen.
That's right. Okay, and I'm sure that in the chat, Terry or Dan have dropped in my code, so I'm going to go ahead and press on. If you need that code again, feel free to let us know in the chat. All right, so like I just mentioned, in today's webinar, we're first going to take a look at the file that I built as students, right? And then after that, we'll take a look at how to build that file and upload it into Lumio. And then of course, we're going to add those interactive elements that Lumio has to offer. So first, we do want to mention just the difference between Smart Notebook versus Lumio, if you're not familiar. So Smart Notebook is the program or software that's been downloaded onto your laptop, right? You double click it to open, or for me, it's right down here. So that's something that's on my actual computer, whereas Lumio is opened via the browser. So I would open that, loom.io, and then I could build or add those interactive elements on from the internet. So it's really cool. Your lessons are saved on the computer. And then in Notebook, there are some additional lesson creation and delivery features and tools that aren't quite in Lumio at the moment. So that's why we wanted to share with you some of these really powerful elements of Notebook. So again, we're going to go ahead and dive in as students. So the first activity that we have here is called a graffiti wall. And you'll notice there is a little picture back here. And what we've done, and I'll show you later in Notebook, is we've turned the opacity down. So It makes it look a little bit lighter, a little bit more transparent, so that when students are putting their contributions onto here, you can see the text really clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to turn this into a collaborative workspace. So I'll go up to my participants button with these little people, and I'm going to select collaborative workspace activity. And for this particular activity, I'm just going to choose to put everyone on one team, which means that everyone's going to be contributing to the same page. Of course, you have the option to split up into different groups or teams as well. So I'll do that. And now, as you guys get started, you'll be able to see on your left-hand side a toolbar similar to mine, where you will be able to put in some contributions. So, what do you think are the important things to consider when you're buying a phone? That's what this particular topic is. So we'll give you guys a minute here.
I love how easy it was, Melody, to be able to turn that one page that's so simple into something that everyone can participate on together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just a quick click of a button, right?
Yeah.
So, ooh, somebody's putting in
Oh.
a picture, getting fancy.
And some pen.
I know, with
Somebody knows how to use the pen.
very neat handwriting.
Right?
Would wonder if you're on the if you're using your mouse.
Hopefully
So
I have like a
awesome.
stylus.
So I'm seeing a lot of, cost. Those of you familiar with Lumio, you might know I can click on any contribution and go ahead and open my drop down to see that that was added by Laura J, right? So you can do that with any of these contributions, even the pictures. And
Awesome.
hold on, it's not. There we go. It wasn't showing up for me. So that was Jerry. That's great. Okay, so what's really cool about this, obviously, is that you can, change the topic to fit whatever your needs are, right? So probably you're not necessarily teaching your students about what to think about when they're when they're buying a phone. Maybe you're doing, consonants. If you're somebody who teaches younger or older, maybe you're talking about significant people in history or things like that. But a really great way to get your students' perspectives and thoughts in one quick sweep.
Yep. So share with us in the chat, what would be your topic for your graffiti wall? I like to definitely use these as like brainstorming ways. Right? Have those
Yes,
deep discussions, have student-led conversations about all the things that you're sharing about what you consider before buying a phone. That's a big chat.
definitely.
That's a big purchase too.
Definitely. I can see some of us have added like check marks and stars. Maybe they agree with some
Yeah.
of these different things. And something that I can do too is, maybe I put a check mark as well. And whenever, whatever we're doing from the teacher end or student end, that appears live on your screens too, right? So on your student end, which is pretty cool. You can leave that feedback right away.
I'm seeing some great thoughts in the
Thank
chat,
you.
brainstorming, an exit ticket,
Awesome.
tough topics for reviews.
Mhm.
Oh, very timely, traditional Thanksgiving traditions.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little less on the academic, more into the
the fun,
community
right?
building. Yeah.
Yeah. Introducing new vocabulary, brainstorming what they think the words might mean. Lots of great
Awesome.
ideas.
Well, great. Thanks, everybody. Lots of great ideas. So moving right along, this is a graphic organizer that was built in Notebook, right? And, Lumio does have a bunch of really great graphic organizers ready-made, but sometimes, maybe you want your graphic organizer to look or flow a certain way, or maybe there's too many spaces or boxes in the default one. So you really just need these 4 particular spaces. So you might want to build that in Notebook instead, right? A couple of other things you can do when you're building a notebook. This is from the highlighter tool. And then what you can do after that is make it infinitely clonable. So what I could ask my students to do, and I'm just modeling right now, but I could say, use the pink highlighter to, highlight things that you know. and then use the yellow one to highlight the unknown or the question, right? So I'm actually going to go ahead and reset my page. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and turn this into an individual handout. So the difference, remember, is I kind of like to think of the collaborative workspace as a poster. So, you know, if it's a whole group collaborative workspace, you've got one giant poster that everyone's putting onto. And then if you've got the small group collaborative workspace, each student group has their own poster. But the individual handout would be like passing out worksheets to each child. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then you guys can play around with the infinitely cloned highlighter tool. I can see Danielle and Jennifer have gotten started. Pam, great. So you can push start on that. Don't feel the pressure to actually solve the problem. I know that it's the end of the day, so perhaps you don't want to think so much. What's cool about here is I can go into the teacher handout in the lower right-hand side. So if I didn't already model for my students, or maybe we're all done and now we're, you know, taking a look at the answer, I can go ahead and solve that on this page and it won't change any of my students' pages.
It's a great way to model to that direct
Yes.
instruction
Right, exactly.
before turning them over. And that roster of everybody, so once everybody hits start, like Melody said, the whole list of students populates. And it's a great way to kind of hold a student accountable for working in the project that they're supposed to be working on, or just kind of check in with them. And oh, I see Michelle's done.
Ooh, awesome. So in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a button that says done. Students can push that and let you know when they're finished. And then that way you'll know if it's time to grade or maybe if it's time to give feedback. It's also helpful to know, you know, if so-and-so doesn't have it checked and everybody else does, maybe that person needs some help or a little bit of extra support. So I'm going to go ahead and tap in. I can go in ahead and I can toggle through. We're experimenting with the pens, it looks like on here. Oh, I saw. Looks like Angie was using some text to write things down. That's excellent. Okay, I can add feedback on here. So I can, you know, say like, whoops, this is my pen. There it is. I can give check marks. I can also add text and say, great solving, Angie. And this is going to show up for Angie right away on her end of the screen, which is really cool.
It's great to have that feedback conversation with students individually without
absolutely.
involving the whole class. Be able to provide information and supports. I love it.
I love that smiley face. I actually like to do too. Sometimes I'll look for like digital I like to call them digital stickers.
Yeah, me too. That's what
I'll
I call
use
them.
the image search and I'll just say like, great job.
I type smiley face a lot and I
Oh, do
get like
you?
some adorable smiley faces. That one comes up in smiley face.
This one does. I
Yep.
can put that on there. All right, so we're going to come back out. And again, this was a notebook page, right? So it was something that we built in Notebook. We brought it into Lumio, and now it's become this, this great interactive piece. We doing okay, Jennifer? Are there any questions in the chat or?
I don't see anything that hasn't been answered. It looks like Terry and Dan
Awesome.
are kicking it in the chat. Lots of great conversations, lots of great things happening.
That's great. Staying on top of it. All right.
Oh,
So
there
of
is a
course,
question.
oh,
Sorry,
sure.
Melody. It's
No, that's all right.
Diane. Perfect timing, Diane. She asked, how were you using the infinite cloner feature again?
So we will take a look at that once we're in the building portion. Yeah, we'll backtrack to that. Don't worry. All right. So, you know, this is just an empty template version, right? This is the one without the word problem question in it. And this is what we would have created in Notebook with the shape tool and the line tool. We'll take a look at those. But keep in mind, it does not have to be word problem, facts known, unknown, possible ways to solve, right? It could also be main idea and details, main idea, supporting details. Notebook really lends itself to allowing you to really customize the look of your graphic organizer. So you can even make something like this really fun. Yeah, I love it. This really fun hamburger one. Some of you might be familiar with it if you're building a paragraph, right? This is very popular for that particular activity. So we're actually going to be showing you how to build this particular graphic organizer, but you would be using the same skills even to build either of these two, All right.
So we're going to pose a question in the chat. So if you were thinking of the graphic organizers that you use maybe on a daily basis or for certain components within your lesson, what would you want to customize? So share with us in the chat. We love seeing all these great examples of things, what you would customize or how you would design your graphic organizer to meet the needs of your students.
Yes, totally. And a tool that I really love in Notebook is the shape tool, which is, what we would use to build all of these. That's something that you can't quite find in Lumio yet. So,
Someone said they would add tomatoes to our hamburger
oh my
graphic organizer.
gosh,
I'm
I
like,
love it.
yeah, true. Tomatoes aren't on there.
That would make it look pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Add a splash
Maybe
of
we could
color.
add a tomato when we build it in Notebook.
We could. That sounds fun.
Oh, lots of cool stuff doing different shapes. So when we go into Notebook to build and Melody walks you through those pieces, feel free to, of course, build our hamburger with extra condiments, but also build something that would be interesting to you. Somebody put that Adele's doing the B story. So she makes her graphic organizer in I don't know if it's
Oh
the
my
letter B or if it's
gosh.
the actual B itself, but that's great. I'm seeing all
That
these
is
segments
cute.
of the
I could
B
totally see
body.
like
The
yellow and a
wings.
black one. Yeah, with all the different
Yep,
parts. That's a
for
great idea.
sure. Oh, the bumblebee. Yep. So that's what well, I was just making sure I was thinking the right thing.
Yes. I could totally picture it.
hmm
All right. And the final component that we're going to talk about here is this temperature check, right? So I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to turn it into an individual handout in a moment here, but you would use the slider to show how you feel. So this is great in terms of gauging where your students are, maybe their understanding, or maybe even just how they're feeling in general about the content that you're teaching or what you've gone over or practiced. I do want to mention this is something that we pulled over from Lumio's Explore Resources. And what's really cool is that even though this whole file was built in Notebook, of course, you can still incorporate some of those extra resources from Lumio. So they really work well together. They blend together really seamlessly. But the other thing we want to mention is that this was definitely somebody made it in Notebook because it's got this horizontal slider. That's a function that is within Notebook. So that's also important to note too. Even though we found this within Lumio's Explore Resources, it was a page that somebody definitely built in Notebook. So I'm going to go ahead, same way, really quick, turn this into an individual handout. I'll go up to the participants, click on individual handout activity, and you guys can show us, if you hit start, how you are feeling.
So if you're interested in learning more about how things are locked in Lumio and what carries over from Lumio or from Notebook into Lumio, there's a session that we did previously. I think it was in our August session. Of course, I'm not
Yes, I believe so.
some we have hidden gems. That was another great one that Dan did. You can find all of those exciting hidden gems in Notebook as a on-demand recording from the web page. But I can
Awesome.
not for the life of me remember which one I think you did it. It was in August. I
I
don't know
think
what the title
so.
was.
We'll
I
be
thought I
able to
wrote it
see it.
down. Yes.
We'll take a look. Yeah.
Perfect. There's so many good ones that we
Oh,
want you to remember to be able to
Heather.
access.
Yes, Heather is feeling so good.
Awesome.
All right, Laura as well. And some of us are, closer to the middle, which is totally fine too. Hopefully, once we get to building, you'll be able to see how all of these pieces have come together. But I really love this activity for, again, gauging how your students are. You can kind of see which students you might need to check in with, right? Or which students maybe need some reteaching.
Yep.
So I'm
And the
gonna go
fact that
back
it's
out.
individualized and none of the other classmates can see it, it's just a conversation between the teacher and the student
That's
as
right.
an independent individual handout.
Perfect. Yeah. And the only reason you guys can see it on mine is because I'm sharing my screen with you. So just like Jennifer said, you know, other students wouldn't be able to see that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and press onward. And we're going to take a look at how we built those pages. So real quick, I just want to show you the pages we're going to build are the graffiti wall, right? And we're gonna build the hamburger or cheeseburger, I guess. It's got a slice of cheese. The cheeseburger graphic organizer. And then we're also gonna take a look at how to then import a Lumio page into the file that you've already made. So before we do that, what I would like to ask you guys to do is go up to your 3 lines. Click on that, and yours is going to say leave class. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and just leaving the class.
And Melody, while you're walking them through that and they're all leaving, I saw a question in the
Sure.
chat about the green check mark. What did it mean?
Yes, absolutely. So the green check mark, let me go and find one. So I'll hit student progress to open that back up. The green check mark just means that the student marked the assignment as done. So on the student end, when you open that in the upper right-hand corner, it allows them to hit done. And that way you as a teacher know, oh, Tim said he's done. Now I can grade his paper, or now I can look at his work, right? Whereas I can see, for example, that Carolyn hadn't marked hers done, which is totally fine. And maybe that tells me, oh, maybe I should check in with her to see if she needs help completing that assignment. Or maybe I just need to give a reminder to complete it.
And I see. And one more question, and I
Sure.
apologize if these have already been answered in the chat. I know Terry and Dan are on
Yep.
it, so I'm sure it's been. But lock and infinite cloner, which is what you've shared as examples inside of Lumio. Someone wants to know if you're able to do those parts in Lumio.
You can, yes. Actually, in edit mode, you are able to lock things and also use infinite cloner. Yeah, but you have to be in edit mode at this time, I believe. Yeah.
I think
All
all of
right.
this will like come alive when you go into Notebook and start to build.
Yes, totally. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the remaining students. I'm just going to go to my participants. Oops. Edit. I'm going to select all and remove. And let's go ahead and transition into Notebook, which I'm going to open up here. And I've got an empty page. Now, the first thing that we're going to build, remember, is the graffiti wall. So what I want to do is get a picture to upload into my Notebook page. And I'm going to do that. I go up to edit. Is it edit or import? Oh, I'm sorry.
Your
It's insert.
picture? Yep.
Yeah, I go to insert. Too many little options up
I
here.
know.
I go to insert at the top, and then I'm going to scroll down to picture.
Well, if you were in Lumio, you'd have to go to edit in order to access the picture.
Right. Maybe that's where my brain's at.
I'm sure it was.
And I've got my graffiti picture right here in my downloads. You might be using a different picture. Of course, if you are trying to follow along, by the way, feel free, but know that you are going to get a recording of this. So if you'd like to, take things at a slower pace another time, you absolutely can. So again, I went to insert down to picture. Now I went to my downloads to find the picture I'd like to put in. And here it is. And I'm just going to resize it a little. And you can see that I am able to, if I click and hold, it's letting me pretty much transform it however I want, right? Like I can make it really skinny or really wide. I'm just gonna pull it to the edges of the page. And you'll notice that it looks different from the one that was in my Lumio, because right now, if I were to put text on it, it might be hard to see, right? So what I want to do is turn that opacity down. So I'll delete that text box. And to do that, I'm going to click on my image that I imported, right? And this is my transparency button here, these 3 little bubbles. And when I click on that, it's going to give me a slider. So now this over here is telling me it's at full opacity. I'm going to turn that down and you guys watch what happens. So it already changes a little bit, right? It kind of starts becoming, more see-through or lighter. So that's what I would do. And I feel like this is probably too light. So I'm just going to go for right here. And that's good. Okay. And then, of course, the next thing I want to do, and somebody just asked about it, is I want to lock this because right now it's moving around and I don't want to move it around and I don't want my students to be able to move it around, right? So I'm going to go up here to my drop down arrow and go down to lock and lock in place. And now it's just not moving at all. And my final step for this activity is to go to my text tool, which is this A. I'll click in and now I'm going to type graffiti wall, buying a phone. And I always like to mention, don't forget to go back to your select tool, guys, because if you stay here in text, you'll never be able to like move it around. You're just making new text boxes. Same with the shapes. We'll take a look at that. So I'm going to click on that select tool. I think I want it a little smaller. There it is. And of course, this is moving around right now as well. So I just want to lock that into place too. So click lock, lock in place. And that is it. That is the graffiti wall. And then, we're going to show you how to upload this into Lumio. And then all you do is click the button to turn it into a collaborative workspace and you've got it. Something that your students can interact with.
Great. So thinking of why would we want to build this in Lumio and in Notebook instead of in Lumio, the opacity piece of being able to customize those images and be able to really pull in things that you can adapt and change and works with on the page is exactly the reason. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure the chat's getting, well, why wouldn't we just build that in Lumio? And while you could, it wouldn't look the same. You wouldn't have all those features.
No, in Lumio, it would look like, like this. And then
it'd be hard to see.
Yes, yeah. So I'm going to turn that back down.
And
you can do this with any image.
Right,
yep.
Right. I did see a question about, should we lock in Notebook or should we lock in Lumio? And what do you think?
I think that's up to you. You can actually unlock this and we'll take a look. If we have some time, maybe we'll take a look. You can unlock this in Lumio as well. So if you're choosing to lock it in Notebook and then you're like, you get it into Lumio and you're like, oh, it doesn't fit quite right, which we'll talk about. You can go ahead and change that and unlock it in Lumio. So you can still, change it up a little bit.
So if you're a math teacher and you're thinking, well, why would I want to build in Notebook? You have all of the math tools too, not only the opacity and be able to make all those different shapes that you'll see soon with the graphic organizers, but you have all of the tools to create your math expressions and add those in order before you bring them into Lumio.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jennifer. So I think we're ready to move on to our hamburger. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add a new page, and the new page button is right here. It's got like a little dog-eared paper with a plus sign. So I'll click that and I've got my new page. And now we're going to go ahead and dive into our shape tools. So when we were building this burger, I'm going to click onto my shapes. The first thing we're going to build is the bun. And lucky enough, we've got a semicircle tool right here. So I'm going to select that. And then what I'm going to do is click on the colors here, the color picker. So, I could choose from colors here, or I could also, I want a brown, but that's definitely too light. I can click on more, and maybe I'm just going to, look for something a little bit darker like this or something like that. So let's go with that. Want to make sure it's picked. And then I'm gonna click and drag to make my top bun. Okay, and notice I did just on reflex go back to the select tool. If you do not, and you try to drag this, you're just gonna make a whole bunch of semicircles. So make sure that you do that. I'm gonna undo those. So I've got my burger bun right here, and something that I'm gonna do here to extend a little bit and make it look a little bit nicer design-wise is add a texture. So I've clicked on my shape, and now in my tabs, I'm gonna go to my properties tab, which is this one here, the fourth one down with the A and the 2 colored squares. And when I go there, you're gonna notice that I'm getting some different options here. Okay, I'm actually gonna go down to pattern fill. And then I'm gonna choose, let's
Sesame
see.
seeds.
I know, right? Maybe this one, the dots look most like the sesame seeds. So I'm gonna choose my pattern. I'll put my color back in there. Oh, wait a minute, foreground color to choose from here maybe. My color's not staying when I do it.
And I'm on the old notebook version, so mine doesn't have all those great tools.
Oh man, it
Or
was
else
doing it before.
it
Maybe I'll
was
do this one.
just a nice gradient.
Yes.
Lots of options to pick from. If you're artistic, oh my gosh, the things that you could build.
That's
I
true.
think it looks like it. No, maybe it doesn't have dots. Maybe it's just my eyesight.
I know, me too. So once you have your, whatever you're
pretty.
using, whether it's solid or pattern, we need another one at the bottom. So I'm actually just going to duplicate this. So there's a couple of different ways you could do that. If you're a clicker, right, you can click on the drop-down menu. You can clone or maybe copy and paste this way. I'm personally a keyboard shortcut person. So I
Yep.
would click on it, and if you hold Control or Command, if you're a Mac user, D, it will make a copy of that for you. And then you can use the little green icon here to just rotate that. And now you've got the 2 sides of your burger bun.
Nice. It's cool because the gradients like switched sides as it went.
Yeah, actually that turned out pretty,
It looks
cool
nice.
looking. Yes. All right, and now we can start adding the rest of our burgers. So for the patty, I feel so funny talking about burgers. I'm gonna go ahead and choose.
It could be a vegan option for those who
Oh,
are,
true.
want to
Yes,
be that are vegetarians or
the
vegans.
Beyond
I'm sure I
Burger.
say it wrong. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I'll grab this brown, I think, and I'm using like the rounded edge rectangle tool, and I'm gonna click and drag. There we go. And actually that color looks a little bit dark, but that's okay. Remember what we talked about, guys?
It's a
I
rare
can
burger.
turn that down a little bit so that it's not so dark. So there's that one. And then I want my cheese. And I'll have to add a tomato, right? So
Right.
the cheese is yellow. I will add that in.
So while this is a lot in the different shape tool and like lots of different things, if you've missed anything or you want to learn more about the shape tool, we go into it even more in depth in our launch into learning with Smart Notebook that'll be on December 6th. So mark your calendars, or December 9th, sorry. Mark your calendars if you want to see some additional graphic organizers being built with the different tools.
Yes, and actually I just had an idea. Instead of doing another oval, I'm just going to make a copy of this with Command D. And even though it's yellow right now, I can actually change the color just by selecting it, and I'll go up to my color picker and I'll change it from yellow to red. And it's gonna allow me to do that.
Looks good.
Awesome. And then my final thing I'm gonna add, I'm trying to make room for it here, is my lettuce. And you'll notice in my shapes tool that there is no squiggly,
Lettuce.
yeah, there is no lettuce shape here. So we're actually going to use the pen tool for that. And you'll have to forgive my pen tool drawing here. So I'm just doing some squigglies.
Very nice, free-handed.
Okay, and I've got my shape. And now what I'm actually going to do to fill this in is use my paint bucket. So this is the paint bucket here, and I'll choose a color, and then I'm gonna just, oh, you know what? It was doing this the other day, which means I did it wrong. So I
Does it
wanna,
have to be like
it has
closed?
to be like perfectly closed.
Closed, yeah.
So I'm going to do that. And let's see.
It's
Nope.
the creative fun part.
I know, right?
Building
Except
for students.
sometimes
Sometimes they don't
Sometimes-
order lettuce, and then I guess you just move on.
sometimes
This time
technology
it's the
doesn't
tomato.
doesn't like me.
There we go. This
That-
one's the one.
Is it third time's the
I'm-
charm?
I think so. Or it's iceberg lettuce and it's still white. I don't know.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
It
So
works.
you-
You might want to just grab the thicker pen, guys. Sometimes that
Oh,
works a little
that's
better.
right. Let me try that. Thanks,
That
Terry.
does make sense.
I'm gonna try this pen.
I would have just kept trying and trying.
I know that it works. I definitely was working with it the other day. Oops. Did I pick my color?
I think so. Looks like it's green.
It's not going for me. So maybe mine is being just kind of picky and finicky.
Story of my life.
I know. I think we'll move on after this.
We're persistent. I
But
feel like if we
yes,
want to
I
make it look good for
know.
students, we're going to keep working at it. 'Cause
We
that's
are.
what teachers do.
Yes. So I can tell you that it has worked for me. So I'm not sure
You
why
could
it
always
isn't in
take the
this
crayon
instance,
and
but
fill it in later on.
that's right. So we could do that as well if you want to use, especially if you're on something like your board.
Right. Be totally
You could
different.
also, guess you could also just use green
Right?
to do it
Yeah.
without the outline.
The fact that you have all these tools and all this ability to really, really customize exactly what you're visioning in your head, right? To create for students is amazing. That Notebook
Yeah.
can still do all these things. It's awesome.
And lots of opportunities to improvise.
Right? There's always more than one way to do it.
Yes, exactly.
It
And
looks
just because we
great.
have a couple of people that are running in the chat with this, I've also made a green page, put a marker on it, and then taken a
see?
picture, and then you can make the outside transparent. That will work too. There's lots
you
of
go.
ways to do this.
And now
Yeah.
we're making people hungry.
Now I'm making them hungry.
Next is the French fry page. Those are supporting details.
I know, right?
But we're running out of time, so
I
you might
know,
want
I
to
just
show them how
noticed.
to upload
That's
their
right,
pictures.
right. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna highlight all of this and just group it together so that, I can now resize this whole thing together if I wanted. Oh, and I
Make
grouped
sliders.
it by I just use Control G or Command G. That was my keyboard trick, but you can also go into the drop down. And then of course you would add your, your descriptive things. So maybe it's introduction, right? And then you would lock these things after you're finished. So you have introduction. I'd probably just clone this because I want the text to stay the same and say supporting detail. And maybe I would make that one smaller, but for sake of time, I'm going to just continue. So I would resize these for myself. But you can see, just to make your workflow go a little bit faster, that cloning and copy pasting is really important. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the rest of that so just kind of the gist of things. So now what I'm going to do so that we can get this up into Lumio, I'm going to save this file. So I'll go to File, Save As, and I'm just going to call it Lumio example. I'm going to save it to my desktop so I know where to find it when I go. And now we're going to take things back into Lumio. So Let me go ahead and end my lesson. Now, before we go ahead and import that lesson that we just created, we're going to go into our Explore resources to look for the page with the brain on it, But of course, we do invite you sometime, if you haven't already explored the Explore resources, really take a look. There's a lot of great things, manipulatives, things about reading and writing, fractions, multiplication. You can do a search for different things. All kinds of files will pop up. Right now, we're going to go into emotional literacy. And that brain slider is under growth mindset. So I'm going to go there. And now I'm going to save to my library so that I pull this file from the resources into my files. It's going to become one of my files.
You can get lost in there. There's so many
I
great
know,
examples.
Yes, so
And
many.
everything can be customized and
That's great.
adapted.
All this awesome stuff while this is importing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my house in the upper left-hand corner. And then now that that's done, you see that it's right here, right? That growth mindset file has made its way right here. And I'm going to now pull the notebook file that I just made into my Lumio as well. So I'll click on the Add Activities button, going to Import Resource, Local Storage, and I'm going to my desktop. And here's my Lumio example. Now there they are. There are the 2 pages that we just made in Notebook, and I'm going to hit Add. And now they are on here ready to go. Earlier, I know we were asked, do you lock things in Notebook? Do you lock things in Lumio? You can see I can go ahead and unlock even while in Lumio, and I can make that bigger because, the sizing was a little off. Sometimes when you pull things in from Notebook into Lumio, you might notice that, but you can always fix that using that sizing. And then I can just relock it, right? An infinite cloner is here as well, if you need
That's
that.
That's one of the new updates
Yeah.
in Lumio.
Yes, it is. So now we're going to pull that final piece. I'm going to use the plus sign. We're going to go to Import Resource, My Library. I'm going to choose the Growth Mindset file. And I don't need all of these pages. I just need the one at the end. So I'm going to uncheck the Select All box. I'll choose just that one I need. I'll add it. And now we have that file, the 3 pages that we took a look at today. And of course, you could turn these into handouts and workspaces in advance. I kind of like to wait until I've got it in front of my students so I can explain what the directions are and maybe do a little bit of modeling before pushing it out to them.
Me too. And I never know if I want it to be a handout or a workspace, depending upon how much information like students understand. Like, do they grasp it enough to go into a handout right away on their own?
Right,
So
right.
I like the option.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that brings us to the end, right, Jennifer?
Yeah, that was great. Lots of
Awesome.
great things that you shared with us. We're really excited to be able to share with you all the different benefits that Notebook, building a notebook, and then pulling it into Lumio, right? Creating a notebook with Lumio in mind.
Yes.
And how you can still utilize those features and add additional elements like the independent worksheet and the collaborative workspace.
Absolutely. So now I did see that Dan dropped in the resource link. So I'm going to go ahead and click as well. So these things lead to a bunch of different places. The webinars button takes you, to all of our webinars. If you want to sign up for any upcoming, you'll be able to scroll down and view those. But at the very bottom, you'll see our on-demand webinars. And here are some more of the notebook ones. You'll see there's some previous Lumio and IQ sessions as well. So the one that Jennifer, you were talking about earlier with the locking and like lock, allow, move, that's this one, Bridging Notebook to Lumio, Getting Students Active. So you'll be able to view those. And then this recording will also eventually end up here as well. A couple of the other things we like to call out is the Notebook Toolkit. So this is a toolkit that has some pre-built files. You can click into any of the things that you're looking for. So maybe you're looking for activating prior knowledge. And then these are notebook files that you can just click, you'll be able to download the file and then just use it right away, right? So you could replace this image if you need to, but you could replace this video, but you can download it and use it as a template for your own stuff. And all of the, different links here will lead you to different activities.
And then all of those notebook files, once you've made changes, you can also bring them back into Lumio if you
That's
decide to
right.
deliver them. It's pretty cool.
And then the final thing is the notebook guide on the very right. And this is for if you're thinking like, oh, wait, I remember Melody and Jennifer talked about that during the session, but I cannot remember. This guide has just about everything you'll need to know to get started with Notebook or to, do some of those things that we were looking at today.
Great.
All right. So I think we're about done. Of course, if you get a chance, feel free to try and upload a notebook file into Lumio and convert the page, maybe look in the Explore resources. But other than that, we are all set. Thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Yep. So thank you for attending. Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Dan and Terry in the chat. The chat was just blowing up with lots of great questions and lots of great answers. I think we have really done an amazing job today bringing these ideas for creating a notebook into Lumio and being able to share these with your class, with your students. Don't forget, if you want to get your survey, that I think the link is going to be in the chat. If not, there it goes. Thank you, Dan. Complete the brief survey and it will give you a URL for you to download your certificate that you can add the date and your name to it so that you can turn those in for points with your school district if you so desire. But we're very happy to be able to join you. Have you join us this afternoon? It's been one of those long days today.
And you guys have had some wonderful comments in the chat. Please remember, if you're where
Awesome.
Melody is right now, those 3 lines in the top left-hand corner, that's where
Yes.
you can request the feature. The 4 of us
cool.
can shout till we're blue in the face, but sometimes it comes better from teachers to go in there and vote for all the things you want. And some of the things I know that you're asking for in the chat right now, I know they're coming.
There's
So
the first
wink,
one.
wink, they're coming.
I just saw about the spinners.
So you can see too, I saw folders in the chat.
Mhm.
So I searched it. You can see it's got a lot of votes and then they responded, right? They said, we started,
wow.
We're doing that
The
because
work has begun.
it's clearly important to teachers.
So go in and vote and you'll hear back from them then. And thank you very much for all coming. Make sure you fill out the survey. We'll give you another 2 minutes to fill out the survey before we'll close it out. Remember that the end is the certificate.
Yep. And I don't see any lingering questions. So I think we're good on that side.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Give it
right.
about, we giving it 1 more minute or?
Yeah.
Sure. We
And
hope to see you
remember,
all at
sign
the
up
next
for
session.
any webinar you want because you'll get the recording even if you can't come.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving to you too. And for other holidays around the world, it looked like we had a lot of global participants.
We did.
Very exciting. All right. We'll see you December 9th for Launch into Learning with Smart Notebook.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody. Thank you.